I'm Brenda Hanson, and I'm a local gal. I did grow up in Erie County, but in Holland. I was a farmer's daughter, and grew up baling hay and pitching manure and all that good stuff that farm kids are blessed to do. And now I am a school teacher and an assistant administrator at a local Christian school. And I had hoped that I would spend the days of my life teaching my students and living in my warm little bubble of being with those kiddos and having a quiet and comfortable life. And obviously the world has changed, and the world has changed quickly over the last couple of years, and so too has my life. It's been stretched thin, reaching out to try to fight the good fight of liberty and freedom. And I stand for peaceful resistance against what centralized government is trying to do to the ordinary citizen. I value local control at all levels, school boards, town, county. I believe that is where government is the friendliest. And so my real heart's desire is to see our local governments be beacons of hope and liberty, even as our country changes, even as darkness seems to kind of descend on the country as a whole, that we will have these pockets of liberty where we can be free, and where we can raise our children and pursue our livelihoods. And I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful for all of you. We truly are ordinary citizens in extraordinary times. And we have a story to tell, and we have a gift to give our children and our grandchildren. I'm also part of the leadership team of another group that meets in Cattaraugus County down in Yorkshire, Delavan area. It's called We the People, and we've been meeting since about, I guess it was probably last March of 2021. So it's just been, the last 9-10 months or so. But it's been wonderful to get to know people and to share in this journey together. These are exciting days. And the more I think about it, the more I think about how important it is that as we go forth, we have to have a sense of optimism. We don't want to become a people that are bitter and angry all the time about what's going on in our country. We want to be optimists because we have a winning argument. We have a positive story to take out there. And so my 2020, I spent almost the whole year being depressed and sending nasty emails to people like Ginger and Mike. I remember my first few interactions with our county legislators. I was probably where a lot of you guys have been and maybe still are, where you kind of look at your local government and you think, come on, just do something, just get this right. And our response can be very visceral sometimes, and that was my response. I reached out to them and I was like, what are you doing and where are you and what's wrong with you? And as I came out of the fog of grief that seemed to fall over me in 2020, I realized that our local government very often is not the enemy, and we have to find ways to work together because they are very much like us. They're losing their power and they are losing their voices too. And we won't always agree on everything, but we are pulling this load together, especially here in Cattaraugus County. I can't say enough good things about our county government. We are blessed to live in this jewel. I am so proud to call Cattaraugus County my home, where we are doing what we can, right, as citizens and county government. And so now, as we move forward, I mean, my next, where I see myself is I want to be somebody that helps to educate within the ranks of our groups on. How do I say this? To help us to understand how can we pivot back towards good local government, understanding that we need to really get involved. We need to run for school boards. We need to run for town offices. We need to run for county positions. We need to be doing that, and we need to be getting our younger people involved too. I mean, older people we're wonderful, but we have to work on purpose and with intention to draw in the younger folks. And so I think about, so for example, one of the things I've been really thinking about is school boards and how they stagger the elections. And so if you get 2 people to run and get elected, I'm in the Pioneer District, let's say they get elected, and we're having some rather substantial problems actually, oddly enough, because things were going so well with Pioneer last year, but the community has really been forced out in many ways of the conversation, unfortunately, at Pioneer. And as I think about how to handle that, I'm thinking, okay, we have to get a couple of people, I'm just using this as an example, get a couple of people to run for school board, and they stagger the elections, and so there would only, let's say we get 2 people on the school board next year. Well, chances are that they could get on there, but they're not going to be able to do very much. There's not going to be this sudden change in the way business is done at Pioneer. And what our side needs to understand is that we need to not get mad at them about that. That we have to have a long vision of where we're going here. So we get a couple people on next year. The following year, we try to get a couple more on. Not more on, but you know what I'm saying here. Elected.
They're full up of morons.
Right. And so I'm kind of the long view person. I realize we need to have a long vision, and somehow we have to keep it peaceful. I mean, I'm really, that's very important to me, that what we are engaged in is peaceful civil disobedience, peaceful non-compliance, partly because, and I know there's probably some disagreement on that, partly that's because that's my principles, but also because it's very practical. They will crush us if we get baited into anything other than peaceful opposition to what is happening. We really need to be wise, and we have to have thick skin and tender hearts and be cautious to not take things personally. And we have to really work hard at making sure we recognize our fellow human beings, the humanity of one another, because what's going on is not just an attack against our freedoms, it is really an attack on reality and humanity. And so we need to be calm, we have to keep a good, cool head on our shoulders, and we have to see one another as human beings made in the image of God, and fight the good fight to His glory, realizing that doing so is an act of worship, regardless of what the immediate outcome is. So I came out of 2020 and was determined. So I'm going to share something very personal with everybody here. I am the mother I had one daughter, Sarah. And Sarah was born with multiple birth defects and lived for 15 years. And her life was very hard. She had lots of medical problems, and we knew the medical world extremely well. I can't even imagine what it would be like going through it right now. But she was born in 1996, and she lived for 15 years. And we spent lots and lots of days and months in the hospital. And Sarah passed away, oddly enough, although she was very severely medically compromised. She actually got RSV at the end of it was April time, so it was the end of flu season and stuff, but she contracted a contagious disease, and she ended up with it becoming pneumonia, which then became sepsis, which then, we stood at her side as her heart stopped and her life on earth ended, and she entered eternity. And obviously that was a horribly difficult time in my life. But as I went through those raw days of grief, I realized that the day would come when I would be ready to step out back into the world, aware that the world was waiting for me. And so 2020 was oddly, I thought a lot about this as we went through. I guess I don't know if I can completely compare the two griefs that I experienced, but I kept thinking to myself, this is strangely worse than losing Sarah, because it is not, there's the world that I was going to be, that I eventually did step back out into. That's what I was grieving. That's what I could feel was dying, that we were losing. I will always remember the moment for me where this really became crystal clear was actually pretty early on. The schools had been shut down, and I was at home. It was in the morning. I'm an early riser. It was still dark outside, and we had put on the local news. I know that's always a dangerous thing to do, but you have to know what they're saying too. That's interesting always. But anyhow, I was listening to the local news, and they had Governor Cuomo on there talking about reimagining education. So it was the first time I heard that term, reimagining. I literally went back into my bedroom, got on my knees, and I sobbed like a baby and prayed to my God. Because when I heard those words out of that television from his mouth, I just knew this was the long haul. This was the changing of everything. And I grieved. And I realized that the world was going to change. Now, 2021 has come, and I, who tend to be kind of an optimistic person by nature, and joy is something that comes somewhat easy to me. I've always been grateful to the Lord that He's this gift of joy. I purposed in my heart on January 1st, 2021, that I was not going to grieve any longer, but I was going to look this right on in the eye and press on and find my way through this, and find a way to do good and to be good and to walk in the light and to prioritize righteousness in a land that is becoming increasingly dark. And that's what we have to do. And we have to do it with optimism. Don't let what's going on take your humanity or cause you to see others as less than human. Don't let them, every time I hear Mr. Biden try to divide vaccinated from unvaccinated, and I realize it's my family that has been damaged by this, my family that I might not ever again have another Christmas meal with, I have a choice to make. I'm either going to get mad at them because they're afraid of me, or I'm going to realize that there is an enemy that's seeking to kill, steal, and destroy, and I'm going to oppose that enemy and love my family and pray hard that the day will come that they will welcome me back and we will have a meal together again. And so we're all experiencing that in our families. I'm sure we can all tell those stories. And don't let the enemy, and when I say the enemy, there's kind of a spiritual component to this too. Don't let that enemy steal, rob, kill, and destroy in your life. Love people, stay calm, walk in the light, and seek good. That's my story.